All right, going live in three, two, one. Well, this is the first ever episode of Olivia On Air, and we've got Olivia back on again. How are you doing, Olivia?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing okay. As we talked a little bit before the show, got my allergies kicking in, so hopefully I don't cough too much. I may have a occasional a second where I have to pull away from the mic for maybe about 20 to 30 seconds when my throat gets a little. I have to maybe get a drink of water so it doesn't dry out too much. So.
Right, right. Me as well. I've got the allergies too. Might need to mute to sneeze every now and then, but hopefully not.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start the show with something I've been doing lately with some other people. These are questions I've been asking on my YouTube channel, and I will go ahead and ask you the question. They're just simple, silly questions. Not really. They don't really have much relevance to anything. But the latest question I asked was 5 days ago. I asked, "Do you get up late or excuse me? Do you get up early or sleep in late?" And I gave five responses. The first response is I get up early. The second response is I'd rather sleep in late. The third response is neither because I never sleep. The fourth response is it depends on the situation. And the fifth response is I don't care.
Well, I personally get up early for class and for like just to start my day. But if it was up to me, I would get up late.
I played. Okay. Well, I'll bring up the results so you can see them. Whoops. I probably got the wrong one. There we go. There we go. 65% said they get up early. So you would be in the category that would probably be 12% then, or maybe you'd be the 11% that says it depends on the situation.
Right, right. Because Sundays I do actually sleep in late, which is nice.
So
But I'm sure a lot of people do that.
yeah, yeah. Now the other. This is about a. Let me see. What was that? About 2 weeks ago, I went to cook some eggs, and this is what my egg looked like. So I posted a picture of it. I just nothing other than the fact that just that's what it looked like. It was staring me right in the face. So the next question I asked, this was about 2 weeks ago. I said shorts or pants. So I'll go ahead and bring the responses up right now. The first response was I like to wear pants. Shorts are good for me. I just walk around in my underwear. Neither. I wear skirts and dresses. Or finally, I don't care.
I'd say shorts are good for me. I like shorts a lot. Unless there's mosquitoes outside, then I'll wear pants.
The For me, I usually wear pants and long sleeve all the time because I burn very easily. So even in the summertime, I'll usually wear pair of pants and a long sleeve shirt, so I don't have to put on a lot of sunblock. I go right from fair skin to bright red. So I just there's no point for me even wearing shorts. My legs will just get all bright red. So the one thing I thought was kind of interesting, I thought we'd get more responses where the skirts and dresses. I thought a lot more people would respond to that one. That one actually took a long time to get any response. Um, in fact, it stayed at 0% for a while, which kind of surprised me. I thought there'd be a lot more women responding, or maybe cross dressers. I don't know, but the it's that one was the only one that took a while, but it did. You can see right now it got up to 4% out of 5,200 votes. So, as far as this week, you said before we started the show, you said you saw a movie. You wanted to talk about that?
Yeah. So today I watched a movie on Amazon Prime with Meryl Streep in it. It's called Florence Foster Jenkins, and she's this woman, this New York socialite in the 1940s, who really wants to become an opera singer, but her she's not good at singing. Let's just put it like that. She's not the best at singing, but she's very ambitious. And when she sings, she hears this beautiful voice, but out loud, it's just not the best. But her husband, St. Clair, goes to like really extreme lengths to make sure that his wife never finds out that she's not good at singing. And he kind of makes up this entire club of people who come and pay to, see her sing and applaud her and pretend like she's amazing. And I'm pretty sure it's because she has so many like connections. So that's kind of the basis of it. It's really interesting to see. It's sort of a darker comedy because she's suffering from an illness. I don't want to reveal too much, but um, it has its very funny moments.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and bring up the IMDb page about this. There it is. Is this based on a real person?
I'm not sure actually.
It says
It might be.
I'm reading the synopsis at the beginning. It says the story of Florence Foster Jenkins, a New York heiress who dreamed of becoming an opera singer, despite having a terrible singing voice. So was she really bad?
Um, she she was very pitchy. But it's just so funny to see everyone around her pretending like she's an incredible singer, and he has like her husband hires some of the best coaches around in New York at the time to like coach her in singing, and they pretend like she's amazing, and they act like she's so good at singing so well considering how like it's kind of shrill her voice. But it's really good. It's really good. It's kind of heartwarming to see how people will go to great lengths to try to make her feel like she's an amazing opera singer.
And this was starring Meryl Streep and Hugh Grant. I'm running through some of the pictures right now. The
Yes.
As far as the acting, would you say the acting was pretty good?
Oh yeah, yeah. They're pros, of course, both Hugh Grant and Meryl Streep. And I feel like Meryl Streep always delivers on the assignment. She always knows exactly how to play the role that she's given. She's very good.
So what would you give this movie a rating if you had to give it one?
I would give it a good 7.5 out of 10. Oh, and she was in Mission Impossible, I think Mission Impossible Fallout, the one where Henry Cavill was also in it. And Henry Cavill plays Superman. So, and then the previous picture,
Are you talking about the woman that's on the screen right now that we're looking at?
yes.
Okay, okay. Rebecca Ferguson. Okay, gotcha. And you want me
And
to
in the previous picture, he's in The Big Bang Theory. So it's got
oh,
a lot of like pretty famous people. And he plays a very different character than the character he plays on The Big Bang Theory, which is honestly very impressive because he's kind of he's very much timid, and he's good at holding his laughter in when he's playing the piano for Florence, because that's what his job is. He plays the piano for Florence. Um, and he's very good at holding his laughter in then, but then he has many scenes where he kind of like lets it out in public, and it's kind of funny to see how, the people of the 1940s react to him bursting into laughter in the elevator and things like that. So,
let me see more pictures here. Mostly Hugh Grant, Meryl Streep, and Hugh Grant. Let's see. There was some more there. Go back for a second.
yeah, that's a part of the movie that I'm not going to reveal it yet. It's an interesting storyline.
Hmm. Now, based on the fact that it looks like it's based on a true story, what I'm reading here, I'm wondering how accurate it is to the actual events that took place. Because a lot of times, obviously, they take a lot of liberties with these. So,
Right. It never really occurred to me that it was a true story because I feel like that's such a wild thing to do, like to create an entire club of people for someone who's not the best at singing. But I think it's really, if it is a true story and someone actually did do that for their wife, that would be really, really interesting.
now there's a funny part is about movies being based on true people or true events. What's the Johnny Depp movie? Hold on a second. I got to look this up. Give me a second here. Um, this one came out in the 1990s. I cannot remember the name of it, but you triggered something when you said that. Let me see if I can find it here. Uh, it can't. Hold on. No, no, sorry. He played a movie director, a B movie director. Oh, what was that movie called? And I wanted when you said that, it just triggered something really fun. If I could bring it up here. Oh, here we go. Ed Wood. Have you ever seen the movie Ed Wood?
No, I have not.
Do you know who Ed Wood? Who he was?
No.
He was a movie director uh, that during the 1950s and into the 60s. he was we call B movies, basically movies that are not that well. They're B in, as in like budget movies. There's not much to them as far as the budget goes, so they look really cheaply made. And he made a lot of movies. He was very extravagant, and one of the things he was very proud of himself was the fact that he was a cross dresser. So he was always walking around in women's clothing. Oh, not always, but he was that was one of his famous things about him. He even made a movie about what it was like to be a cross that was actually released to the public. So um, the interesting thing about it was I saw it with a friend. I don't know when we saw it, but after we saw the movie, we were talking about the fact that it was based on a real person, and my friend started laughing because he didn't realize that the whole movie was actually based on real events. Now, the movie itself is kind of outlandish in some ways, so it's hard to tell how much of it's actually real or how much of it's exaggerated. But like I was saying, that obviously they take a lot of liberties, and Johnny Depp is a very dynamic actor. I'm not sure what the right word would be to describe him in some of these, but he's always out there. So in this one, he's very, very, very out there, almost like he's on a different level than everyone else. So I'm not sure how accurate he portrayed Ed Wood, but it was actually a pretty funny movie. It's more of a comedy, but supposedly based on because if the title it says biography comedy. So if you want to see a movie that's actually pretty funny, I would recommend this one. You might, since you like the other one, the other one sounded like a comedy of sorts. You might like this one as well.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. I do admire Johnny Depp definitely for how he definitely throws himself into everything he does.
Yeah. One of the characters that's in there is Bela Lugosi, and Bela Lugosi was the original. Was he Dracula? I think he was the original Dracula from way back in the 30s. And his career at the time the events took place were he was basically down in the dumps. He had no career left. So Ed Wood was able to kind of revitalized his career a little bit by putting him into some of these movies. Um, the movies that were made during the 60s, 50s and 60s, that is. So the story about Ed Wood is eventually I think he just he was obscure. He was so obscure at the time that nobody really knew that he existed. In fact, he became so obscure that he eventually just began becoming he just started directing porn movies. So by the time his career ended, in the 70s, I think. I don't remember how old he was when he died. Um, nobody really knew who he was, and it wasn't until this movie came along around that time, and some of the other movies that he'd made becoming like cult classics because they're so weirdly produced, that's when his name became more of a household name in some ways.
Right. That sounds really interesting. His career sounds really interesting. So that would be a really cool movie to see, definitely.
Yeah. So um
Another movie. Oh, I'm sorry. What did you want to say?
no, go ahead. I was finished. I really was. Go ahead.
Another movie that I saw for the first time was Bonnie and Clyde, and it's interesting. I wouldn't watch it again, but like I feel like it's an important movie to watch because it's such a like I think it's just one of those foundational movies for like the movie industry. But one thing that really surprised me was that the guy who played the first Willy Wonka, what's his name? Do you know?
Gene Wilder.
Yes, he was in Bonnie and Clyde, and for some reason, I just thought that Bonnie and Clyde was such an old movie that I felt like I could never see someone from like a I guess quote unquote more recent movie, sort of recent. I know that the first Willy Wonka is not recent, but like I guess it feels more recent than Bonnie and Clyde, and it's just interesting to see that he was in that.
When I brought that up on the screen, there were two of them. There's one from 1967 and one from 2013. Which
Definitely the 1967 one.
okay. I didn't know there was a newer one, to be honest. So I think I've seen parts of this. I've not seen the whole thing, but how would you rate this movie?
For me personally, I would rate it like a 4.5. Not because the actors were bad or anything, or the story was inaccurate or anything like that. Just because I didn't personally I didn't love it, but that's just a personal, just a personal opinion.
Hmm.
It's based on a true story of the two people who go around and rob banks in the I guess it looks like it's set in like the Wild West kind of times, sort of.
Well, it was. I think it was the 19. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was the 1930s. I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because
That probably makes more sense. Yeah.
they were driving in cars at that point. So
Yeah, but it just had the Wild West like vibe to it because it was in the West.
oh,
I guess.
they get now. I know that this would be a spoiler, but it doesn't really matter because it's already in history anyway. But they have a scene where they get gunned down at the end, right?
Right, yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, the actual car still exists to this day. I think it's in a museum somewhere. The car where they actually got gunned down with all the bullet holes. They never repaired it. So um, they both I believe both of them got killed at that point, right? They were both dead. I don't think either of them survived, right?
Oh, definitely not. They did not survive.
That's
Yeah, there was a lot of bullet holes in that scene.
right. Now, as far as other movies, are there any other movies that you can think of that would fall into this category that you
Um, I watched that I like or watched.
Um, I mean, that you like, or either. I mean, I was actually
Right.
to the idea that maybe there was another document or his like maybe a biographical movie of some kind, but it could be anything really.
Well, I guess another movie from the like 40s was The Red Shoes that I watched. I didn't fully understand it, not gonna lie, but I feel like it's such a prominent movie for the dance community, like for dancers in general, because The Red Shoes is a ballet, and it's still extremely popular, and it's still quite difficult. Um, and so I think it was just like one of those fundamental movies, and a lot of dancers watch it. So
Hmm. Is it actually? This was I think it was 1948. This was actually in color, right?
yeah,
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I thought when I saw that image of the poster looked like it was in black and white for a second there, so I wasn't sure if maybe they colorized it.
right. It might be colorized, but as far as I know, it was like originally in color. It might be black and white for like print, like for the posters and stuff.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But I think it kind of had to be in color because it's the red shoes.
Oh, that's true. This makeup that she's wearing, it looks kind of, I don't know, creepy.
Yeah, yeah. Ballet makeup is like for people who uh, do like shows on stage, like theater or ballet or opera or anything like that. The makeup is usually a bit more gaudy, a bit more standoutish because it has to be for the people in the back of the show or the seating to watch to actually see it. You know.
Hmm. I assume it's kind of like on the older movies, especially where the makeup on both men and women was like really loud and pronounced, and you can tell, but they needed that so the facial expressions would emanate properly from
Right. Right.
modern day makeup is not nearly that aggressive, or I don't know what the right word would be, but I didn't know that. Are you a dancer?
No, I did gymnastics for 12 years growing up, and I had a best friend who was a dancer, so that's how I know the red shoes thing. But yeah,
Gotcha. So what would you give this? How would you rate this movie?
um, it was really nice to see the ballet, and I think it's really interesting to compare how dance has evolved. Just because, I mean, for all sports have obviously gotten a lot better since when they began, just because of nutrition and all that stuff. But I would give it probably a good 6 out of 10.
Okay. Okay. That's pretty good. So, where was this available on Amazon as well?
Yes, Amazon Prime.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, are you talking about movies from the 1940s? Are you a fan of older movies, the classics?
Well, I'm trying to watch more old movies just because I feel like I didn't used to think of them with much respect just because I was like, oh, just, watch a new movie. It's better, high quality, and all that stuff. But I feel like it's important to watch older movies just so you can see like how far movie making has come as a whole. And I think it really helps you appreciate new movies more just because you can be like, oh my gosh, in the 40s they had this kind of technology and they couldn't do so much, but they still made like some pretty great movies, the classics, of course. So I think it just helps with appreciation. I don't love them that much, but I think it's important to watch them. I
Hmm.
did love 1960 something Romeo and Juliet. I think that one is better than the newer one with Leonardo DiCaprio, just because I feel like it follows the play a bit more, and it makes a bit more sense to me personally.
Hmm. Now, the one thing I've noticed, I'm just talking about older movies. I didn't mean to. I'm changing it slightly. What we're going to talk about here, but the I've noticed about older movies, and you probably noticed this as well, is how they talk really, really fast. Sometimes some of the characters almost like they're speeding through their lines, and instead of talking like a normal person with or they're pausing or pacing themselves, it's like they talk really fast and they talk like this, and it's like you're like, why are they talking like that? And I believe at the time that was just the style of the movie because I don't in real life I don't believe people talk like that. I think it was just a style that they'd like to do. Um, did you notice that in the Red Shoes? Was that also prominent?
I did not actually notice that in the Red Shoes. I don't think I've only seen like four of the older movies, so I don't think I've seen one yet with the fast talking, but when I do, I'll definitely tell you.
Okay. One of my favorite older movies, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's pretty popular during Christmas time, is It's a Wonderful Life. Have you ever seen that one?
Yes.
Okay. The Jimmy Stewart. Now Jimmy Stewart in that movie does not talk fast. Some of the characters in the movie, some of the smaller characters, lesser characters talk kind of fast. So you can hear it in that one. But Jimmy Stewart was that your mic? I'm hearing a little bit of a buzzing sound. Is that you?
It might be. Is it gone now?
It's yeah, it seems to have stopped. Yeah. It was more
Okay, good.
more like a digital buzz of or click of sound. So anyway,
Interesting. I think I might have held the mic too close to the computer.
gotcha. The anyway, that movie, I've always, even though I don't consider, I know it's technically like, it's called a Christmas movie. I don't really care about the Christmas part of it so much. It's really the story that actually I like a lot. So, um, how would you feel about that movie?
What was the storyline? I think I watched it maybe 4 or 5 years ago, so
Uh,
it's not really fresh in my mind.
Jimmy Stewart's character has he has ambitions to become a great explorer of the world. He's going to and he every time he gets a chance to leave the town that they live in, he gets held back and he has to do things like his father dies, so he has to take over the family business. His he gets ready to go to school, but his instead of him going to school, his brother ends up going to school because he has to do whatever with the business again because he can't leave. So at the very end of the movie, or towards the end of the movie, he never gets a chance to leave. So he never gets to do all the things that he dreamed about doing. So um, there's a scene where his brother or his uncle loses a lot of money. It's actually still kind of stolen by by the villain of the movie, and so at that point he realizes that his dreams were never fulfilled, and so he goes to say he wish he was never born essentially, and an angel comes down, grants him that wish, and he gets to see what life would have been like if he had never been born. So it's like living in a different reality of sorts, like almost like time had been changed. So he gets to see how many people he affected in the town he lived in.
Right, right, right. Okay, yeah, I'm remembering it more now. I think I would rate that movie. I think the message is really, really good just because, I mean, of course it's amazing because so many shows have replicated it in so many ways, especially during Christmas time. Um, but I think I would give it probably a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10.
Oh, okay, that's cool. I'd probably give it a little bit higher than that for me. So the
That's fair.
have you seen the Back to the Future movies?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Okay. second back each of the Back to the Future each Back to the Future movie pays homage to an older movie, at least one, maybe more in each movie. In the second movie, Back to the Future Part Two, there are scenes where they pay homage to It's a Wonderful Life. So, and it's very for me because I'd seen the movie, it was very obvious that there are scenes where he emulates Jimmy Stewart, where Michael J. Fox emulates Jimmy Stewart's character. There are scenes where and where he does his facial expressions just like Jimmy Stewart. There's scenes where he goes to the graveyard, which are almost identical to the scenes in It's a Wonderful Life. And it's really funny to watch that. The reason they do that is, well, based on this is my opinion. I don't have anything to back this up, but is they're the second Back to the Future movie, Marty goes to an alternate 1985, and in It's a Wonderful Life, Jimmy Stewart goes to an alternate version of what his town was like. So there's a correlation between the two, and that's why they paid the homage to the movie. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I haven't seen the second Back to the Future recently, but when I watch it again, I'll look out for that.
Okay. Also, in case you're wondering, the first movie, Back to the Future, they pay homage to the 1960 movie, The Time Machine, that was written by H.G. Wells and directed by George Powell. So there's a lot of subtle references to that movie in there, and it's very obvious.
Oh, that's cool. I watched another movie today, just because every like Wednesday, or actually I just take a day out of the week to kind of like take off for school, just because everything is so stressful all the time with school, especially with finals coming up. So I watched another movie today, and it was Shrek 2, and I hadn't watched it in the longest time. And for anyone who's listening, if you want to know where to find it, it's on Hulu, and I'm really, really excited about that because for the longest time I had no idea where I could watch Shrek 2. But luckily, it's on Hulu, and I never realized how many movies it does the same thing. It pays homage. But my favorite one is it literally pays homage to Lord of the Rings when Shrek and Fiona are getting married. I think the ring bearer trips, and then the ring goes flying up, and it falls onto her finger exactly like the ring in The Hobbit did for Frodo. So I think that was really funny. It's just such a good movie. It's a cinematic masterpiece.
And The Lord of the Rings is one of your favorite movies, right?
Yes.
When you say cinema, you say masterpiece, you're referring to The Lord of the Rings, not Shrek 2, right?
Oh, both for sure.
Oh, both.
They're both amazing. They're so funny. I mean, not Lord of the Rings, but I think they're cinematic masterpieces in different ways, for sure. But I had forgotten how funny Shrek 2 was. But it's like I think it might be better than Shrek 1, but Shrek 1 is still in my top 5 just because it's the first one, and I have a lot of respect for it. Oh, and in that scene, the one where they're on the beach, Princess Ariel comes into that scene, and it's really funny. It's just funny how they tip their hat to other movies in this one. It's really good.
I think I know I've seen the first Shrek. I'm not sure about the second one though. I think we discussed this Shrek before in our last show. But how many were there? Were there 3 altogether, right? Were there 3 or 4?
3 or 4. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have to see this one again I think I remember because she does not appear in her other form, right, at all in this movie?
She does. She does for probably the last fourth of the movie or even third of the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's this whole fiasco with potions from the fairy godmother. And it's all really, really good. That's what they call the ugly sister in the movie. She's all the connections to all the people that could be hitmen. And then also, one thing that they do is with the fairy godmother, they kind of tip their hat. They very much tip their hat to the Godfather, in that she has these 2 like buff guys, and she's like, "Do you know what I could?" She kind of has the "Do you know what I could do to you" vibes, like in the Godfather, which is really funny.
I've not seen it. Unfortunately, you're gonna hate me for this. I've never seen The Godfather, so I
It's okay. I watched the first I'm not gonna lie, people are gonna hate me for this too, but I watched the first part of it and I'm not gonna lie, I got bored. I it's just not my kind of movie. It's okay. Everyone has different tastes, so
That no, I heard that I think there's what, 3 altogether for the God changing that subject slightly. There's 3 for the Godfather, right? There's I think people say I've heard several people say the first 2 are supposed to be really good, but the third one I think is really bad. I think. But I'm not sure. I like I said, I've never seen them. I just every time there's always like a joke every once in a while that people will say something like, "How bad is it?" And I'll say, "Bad as Godfather Part 3" or something like that. So
interesting. I've never heard that one.
it's and since I've never seen the movies, I can't actually relate. So, but
Right.
but getting back to Shrek 2, so this you said this was the what would you say she was?
They called her the ugly stepsister or the ugly sister in the movie. I'm not sure what fantasy character she's supposed to be, but I
Was
think
it
it's funny.
what
She's a bartender. She's great.
was she voiced by Larry King? Is that right? It says
Yes. Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, no,
Right.
it was really good. I mean, the way they set it up was really, really fun because like the the premise is Shrek and Fiona get invited by Fiona's parents, who are the king and queen of Far, Far Away, which is kind of like they set it up to be LA or Beverly Hills, really. And so they have the street uh, lined with palm trees, and it's like they have Starbucks look-alike places in the movie, and they drive up I don't know what road it would be, but somewhere in Beverly Hills, they drive up the road, and you can see like Snow White's house and Cinderella's house, and there are all these big mansions, and it's really really funny how they make all those connections. But the Fiona and Shrek get invited to this dinner, and their parents, or Fiona's parents, think that she's in her human form. They don't know about Shrek being an ogre, and Fiona looking like an ogre, and so it's a big shock for them. And also, they did not know they were bringing a talking donkey, and then that is the hitman they hire. But the hitman grows to like Shrek, and then they're on the same team,
Did he
actually
kind
very quickly. But yeah, it's really funny. It's
the
a really, really funny movie.
is that
And then,
Puss in
hmm?
Boots? Is Puss in Boots? Is that who that is?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. And he uses his powers of being an adorable cat to his advantage, and it's really great to see.
Ah, gotcha.
And then she's played by Julie Andrews,
Go back there. Oh, okay. Okay.
or voiced by.
Right. This was 2004. Is Julie Andrews still alive? I'm not even sure.
Yes,
If
yeah.
she is, all right. It's just getting up there. I'm just curious. John Cleese was in this too. I can't remember that. I remember hearing John Cleese. So I know I've seen this, but it's been a while. So everything you're saying
Right.
is kind of it does kind of bring back little things here and there. So um, the that talking about Larry King. I have a Larry King story. When I first, oh, is this the area? Oh,
Yeah,
that's kind
it's
of
really great.
like Los Angeles a little bit. Like
Yeah,
the
medieval Los Angeles.
when I was many years ago, I used to I used to deliver packages to as a courier, and I had a package to deliver in Arlington, Virginia. And I got to the house, or it was actually a home. I don't know, it wasn't a house, it was like a condominium or something. And when I went to deliver the package, it was Larry King that opened the door and said hi to me. So,
Oh, that's so cool.
and
Was he
he was
nice?
oh very friendly, extremely friendly. In fact, he right away he said hi, how you doing? He said hi and shook my hand in a way that was like indicating that I knew that he was someone important, like he was a celebrity. Like I knew he was Larry King. So,
Oh,
and
that's so cool.
the one thing I didn't know until I met him is that he was a hunchback. So very, very obviously a hunchback. So it was something that you can't really tell on TV. But other than that, he's a very, very, very friendly person. So he also
That's
recently
good.
passed away I don't know if you know that, a couple months ago.
Hmm?
He passed away a couple of months ago. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. So
The host of Jeopardy also did, didn't he?
oh,
I feel
Alex
like that
Trebek.
really took up the news for me.
Oh yeah, I guess he did. I forgot about that. Yeah, I just I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah. These are all just star pictures, so there's nothing really here. So,
But yeah, and also this is the movie where I think it's kind of universally agreed upon, at least for everyone that I've talked to, that the music sort of music video, I guess, or the cover for I Need a Hero is better than the original. Fairy Godmother, she delivers on the cover of I Need a Hero in a major way. She makes it just 100% better. And I'm not saying that the old one was bad, because the original was really, really good, of course. But
I
Fairy Godmother, she hits all the chords. She has it.
I
She has
need to
the
hear
it factor.
who sang that song. Who did that song? Because I'm not familiar with it. Sorry.
I cannot be 100% sure. Yeah, I don't really know.
Okay, I'm just curious. The As far as like getting back to other older movies, I don't know how far back you would like to go. One of my favorite movies is made before anyone I know, except for my grandparents, but they're actually my grandparents are all dead now. But I don't know anyone that was alive when the 1933 movie Duck Soup came out. Have you ever seen that?
I have not.
Are you familiar with the Marx Brothers?
Um, I'm not. I'm very new to the old movie community, I guess.
Okay, Duck Soup is a satire of sorts, or and it's also a comedy. If you were to if you want to see a movie that's the comedy just goes nonstop from beginning to end, this would be a movie that you would. It's a very intelligent comedy, so it almost seems like it's a little ahead of its time sometimes. Um, but the four Marx Brothers are in this. It's Groucho, Chico, Harpo, and Gummo are the four of them. Gummo is the straight man. So like the other three are always cracking jokes. Gummo just sits there and just he's basically the one that reacts to the jokes. So he doesn't actually do any jokes himself. So but
Right.
if you ever hear about the Marx Brothers, I would highly recommend this movie as a movie to watch first. That's probably the one that most people say is probably one of their funniest. So the
Okay. Do you know where it could be found?
Hmm, that's a good question. I'd have to look that one up. I do not know because I have like an old. Sometimes it's actually on YouTube. Like someone will upload it to YouTube. So, but I can look around. I can send you a link to later on to see it, to so you could take a look at it. Um, the
Okay.
Basically the idea is it's not to be taken seriously, of course, but the Groucho Marx is he's kind of one of the obnoxious ones of the group. He becomes the ruler of a fictional country called Fredonia, and uh, from there, it's basically almost a satire of how government is run in a way. So it's partially a satire and mostly a comedy of how governments run things. And eventually they declare war, but the war it's kind of like it's kind of slapstick in some ways, but and then the movie just kind of if you understand satire and comedy and how they get combined together, you might appreciate it. So
Was
it's
it about wait, what do you mean by about the government as in
how
like
governments
how was it run in that time? Cuz I
how
have no I wasn't alive even close to then, so I don't really know
what the
how it
government.
was run then. Kind of the same maybe?
Yeah, it's the same. Governments don't change that much
Right.
as far as the comedy goes. It's basically just he becomes the ruler of the country, and you see all the inside stuff that goes on, how a person runs a country. And it's basically a parody of how Western culture governments are run. So it really hasn't changed that much in this period of time. It's a hell of
Right.
it's like getting close to 80 years ago. So it really 90 years ago, actually, almost 90 years ago. So 87. So yeah, it really hasn't changed that much in that period of
Right.
time. So
That's interesting. That could be really interesting. Because I'm taking environmental policy right now and learning about uh, how, well, there's no soft way to put it, but how corrupt the government can be, especially about policy making, is really shocking. Um, I mean, it shouldn't be shocking, but I guess since I'm young, I just thought maybe it would be better, but no. Um, it's kind of it's almost embarrassing just because, like, for example, there I'm studying water policy, like policy of water management, and making sure there's no toxins, and making sure companies don't dump places and stuff like that. And for the past forever, America has been trying to figure out, the American government has been trying to figure out with the EPA how to define waters of the United States, meaning anything from something you can put a boat on, like a river or a lake or the ocean, to groundwater that you can get your well water from. And like, America still can't figure it out, and it's still up for debate ever since maybe I think the 70s was when the EPA was firmly established, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
Um, and then all the way back to some lawsuits from the 1920s and stuff, where people were just starting to really engage in environmental activism. It's still up for debate. So that kind of thing, everything just moves so slowly, and everything is, and people can come in and say, you know what, I don't like this definition of waters of the United States because it inflicts with, or it impacts my business, uh, and how cheaply I can make whatever product I'm making. So I would, I'm going to pay you this much money under the table, or I'm going to do this for you in secret, and then keep it as this definition for now, that kind of thing.
So you're saying the environmentals went all the way back to the 1920s? Is that right?
Well, environmental policy in the United States goes back as far as the 1800s, really,
Mhm.
because that's when, in the Industrial Revolution, that's when people really started noticing air pollution, and people started noticing wildlife in their development in developing areas, and people like John Muir. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's this, like, in the environmental activism community. He's really, really huge because he's one of the founding fathers, really, of environmentalism. Um, and he would advocate for the environment a lot. But yeah, in the 1800s, people really started noticing, like, how the air pollution affects them, how the air pollution affects their children, um, and stuff like that. So it really started then, but I feel like it wasn't in government politics in a major way until the 60s and 70s, when um, Earth Day was made, when Earth Day was started, really, and the EPA was created. I think that's when the Clean Air and Clean Water Acts were also created. So
Right. The yeah, what I remember hearing, and maybe you could, I don't know how true this is, was that the stuff the laws that were acted back in the 1800s were more of a visual thing because people didn't like to see the pollution being pumped into the air. So it wasn't really a health concern sometimes, more or less they just didn't like what they saw and they wanted to regulate that.
some of it was that, but some of it was that people were noticing, like, hey, living in cities, you kind of get more asthma than living in the country. When I go to visit my family in the country, I feel a lot better, stuff like that. And then there was also the issue of waste in the water, like human waste in the water.
Oh.
That was very not fun for people to realize, like, oh geez, I need a place to put all this. You know what I'm saying? So that was another huge thing.
Now, let's talk about human waste in the water. Have you seen the movie The Shawshank Redemption?
I have not.
Okay. I don't want to discuss. There's a scene where someone has to who escapes, and he escapes in a pipe that has a bunch of human waste in it.
Ew.
And when he finally gets out, it just dumps into a regular creek. In the movie, it's supposed to be 1966, and I highly, in my opinion, I don't. In 1966, maybe it was being dumped into public waterways. I've always questioned that part of the movie, that he would be able to get out so easily. I would venture to guess that most likely the pipe would lead into something more like a plant of some kind. But I don't know about 1966 if the if there were places that were doing that at that point in time.
We actually just learned more about this last class. So I'm sure that waste was being dumped into plants, but the level of cleanliness that those plants were achieving for the output water was not the highest. And surprisingly, it still isn't in some places, because it's just majorly a budgetary problem of the government started giving people or giving um, the plants some grants for money to upgrade their sanitation levels. So there's 3 levels of sanitation, and the third one is like the best. It purifies the water completely, and it makes it all very, very drinkable, very good. Um, and then the second one is like mediocre, and the third one is very, very, very basic. And a lot of the places, and especially underfunded places, are still on that very basic one. And I don't know exactly how many of the waste treatment plants in the 60s were well established, or if for every town, even if it was a small town, there was a well established waste treatment plant. But I'm sure there were a few in a few towns that weren't, maybe it did just dump into the creek. And maybe it was before the government took some heavy action on water quality, because I know that before the 60s, the government was sort of wary about stepping in a federal way. They would make laws more to encourage states to step in, than to have the government say flat out like, "Oh, I need everyone in America to do this," because everyone knows that when the government tells all of America to do something, it doesn't always blow over the best, especially if it means a rise in taxes. So, and that's what most of the water and air, quality standards things kind of caused or need more money generally. So,
Hmm. Okay. So the movie might have been somewhat correct in that regard because he comes out the pipe and the pipe is being dumped basically into a small stream. And I had a hard time believing that, but I don't know. Maybe it was correct. Maybe it was somewhat correct for the time. I don't know.
yeah, it might be. It might be.
Okay. My thought was he would basically I'm not trying to give too much away, but he was trying to escape and he successfully escaped through the pipe. And the I'm thinking to myself, the fact that there was so much waste in the pipe in the first place because he had to crawl a great distance, he probably wouldn't survive just by breathing that in for too long of a period of time anyway. So he wouldn't have even gotten that far.
Yeah, he would definitely leave with some sort of disease or infection. That'd be really gross.
I would highly the Shawshank Redemption is definitely one of my favorite movies. I don't want to give too much away because you hadn't seen it, but I would highly recommend if you want to see it, definitely watch that. If more than Duck Soup, Duck Soup is a good movie, but I would highly recommend the Shawshank Redemption first. So
Is it a horror movie?
no, no, it's a friendship movie. It's a friendship. It really is. Now that the scene I just told you about would make more sense if you see it. So, um, but it's a story about two friends and how they grow and become friends and how they grow a really close bond. So,
That's so interesting. I always thought it was a horror movie.
oh no, it is written by the book was written by Stephen King, which is kind of funny. But no, it's not a horror movie, not even in this, not at all, not even in the slightest. So,
The
um,
title totally sounds horrific. Shawshank Redemption.
yeah, if you watch the movie, you'll understand what it means. So there's a
Okay.
movie. So I did want to ask you something about now you'd send me you told me about Michael D'Angelo. Michelangelo. I'm sorry, Michelangelo. So I can't pronounce the name right. Michelangelo. You sent me a link about his website about David.
Yeah. So something that might be interesting for people listening to learn, is that everyone knows that Michelangelo was a famous painter and sculptor, but I'm in art history class and he actually didn't like painting. He was under contract by a pope, um, and he was for the Florence Cathedral pope dude. And he was contractually kind of committed to making art for them. And it was originally for statues, but the Pope was so determined to have him paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel that he kind of forced him to. And they have some letters from Michelangelo to friends. And in one of them, he complained to a friend saying, quote, "This miserable job has given me a goiter. I am not a painter," end quote. He really didn't like painting. And I think it's so interesting to learn that, just because I think I also put in the link for the Sistine Chapel ceiling.
Oh, okay.
And for those who don't know, the Sistine Chapel has the creation of Adam. Yeah, the creation of Adam, the one where the two hands are like almost touching, that really famous like part of the Sistine Chapel painting. And it's just insane to me how he didn't like painting, but he still created something so insanely beautiful and absolutely like legendary in the painting world.
There we go. Is this which
It's
one?
that one.
Okay. Hold on a second. I go here. Now I'm just curious. Oh, oops, sorry. I didn't mean to do that. There we go. I'm curious though, the letter where he says he said he was not a painter. Is that what you said?
Right.
Could that have been taken out of context though? Was there something before and after that was being said that made him say that? Maybe he was just being, I don't know. I obviously I feel like I'm missing the full context when he says that. Is there
The full quote is longer, but it's very much like he's really hating his time and he's not having fun painting, and the Pope, forced him into it. I don't have the book with me right now. It's far away in the living room, but and also I don't know what page it was on, but the quote is longer. He doesn't like painting, and he sees sculpting as like the slab of stone that he chooses already has the sculpture in it, and it just needs his tools and his hands to kind of set it free. And so I think that's really interesting. He didn't really like painting, but he was also a poet, or at least a writer, and he would write some verse and stuff like that. I don't have any of that with me, but
so as far as anything, was there anything? I mean, I've heard that expression before. Where he said the art was already there. He just had to chip away the outside of it to make it, set it free or whatever. However it goes. But as far as paint, I mean, did he like painting at all?
I mean, he might have liked it a little bit, but he said he just wasn't. He was not a painter. He didn't see himself as a painter, and he didn't really like doing it. But of course, being contractually kind of obligated to do it, and by a pope, you're kind of like, oh, geez, okay, I guess I will. Especially if you're like this good at it. Where's the creation of Adam in this? I'm not 100% sure. Oh, it's you have your mouse over it right there.
Is that coming up? Oh, yeah. Sorry, it doesn't get any bigger than that. That's about as big as it gets. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay, all right. Okay, there we go. Yeah, you can kind of see.
Yeah, that's on like so many like T-shirts and cups and stuff like that.
Is this what it actually looks like? I've never seen it. I mean, I know what that part looks like, the one with Adam. But as far as, is it actually just part of another group of painting? I mean, it's not isolated. I thought it was more isolated than that.
At first, I did too. But yeah, it's part of a huge painting. I cannot believe he painted this entire ceiling. And also, something that I should mention is something that I learned in art history was that when we hear about singular painters painting things like, I don't know if you've heard of them, but like Titian or Rubens or anything like that, when people say that they've done this huge work, sometimes it means that their workshop has done it with them. Like they've maybe laid out the planning for it, but then they have this workshop of maybe 5, 10, 20 people who have perfected their painting to look exactly like them, kind of under, the main painter's tutelage. They've perfected the painting style to look exactly like the master painter. and then they paint it along with them, or even they just lay it out and then the painters do it, and then the master painter moves on to a different project. I don't know if that all makes sense, but
So he's taking. So is that this case for what he did here?
I'm not 100% sure. I think he painted a lot of it. I'm sure other people worked on it with him, because I mean, unless he was like a speed painter, this seems like it would have taken him a lifetime to do this one.
That's
But
interesting.
there was probably, for a lot of the famous paintings that are big, especially like ceilings or walls or massive statues, there's probably other people that were involved that were training under one master painter.
So did these people that were underneath the master painter, did they ever get credit? Are they credited ever anywhere?
Not for the painting that they work like under the master painter for, but it's something interesting. Through the textbook, as you read, you learn about how, I'm just going to throw some names out there. I'm not 100% sure if these are accurate, but like maybe Titian had this master workshop, and then someone else that you learn later, like Rubens, like worked in that workshop and learned from Titian, and then he eventually creates his own workshop, and then more painters come under him, and maybe a master comes out of that workshop. So it's kind of like it's just like being connected, and it's really interesting to learn about because it's generational, and you can really see how each movement, like Renaissance or Impressionism or anything like that, how they come to be, and how through generations, some painters work under other painters and they don't get credit for their beginning work, but then as they get older, they have their own workshop. So it's kind of like that.
But that doesn't
Where
happen.
like the main goal of being in a workshop, even though you don't get credit for the beginning work, it's kind of like you're paying your dues, and then you have the chance of getting your own workshop.
That's not something that happens today, is it at all? Is it?
I don't think in the literal sense, but I do think that like in a workplace environment, there might be times when maybe you are working as a junior, I don't know, a junior editor on something, and the senior editor gets full credit, but you get the experience and the connections that the senior editor can give you, kind of like that.
Like an editor for like what? For a newspaper?
I guess I'm not 100% sure. I'm just throwing it out there. Like,
Oh,
you know,
very
you
good.
work on a project as like an assistant of sorts, and then
Gotcha.
the person above you, you know, gets the full credit, but you get the connections and the experience.
So how long have you been? You're taking an art history class,
Yeah.
and I mean, is there anything else that was really interesting about these paintings that he had done, or anything else
Um,
in particular? I guess.
um, not anything that stands out in my mind particularly. Uh, there's some interesting parts of the textbook, but I'm not gonna lie, for a lot of it, it's like me trying to memorize the details so then I can use them in the exams, because they're multiple choice and they're not the most about learning as they are about memorizing. But you know, you get what you get with teachers. So
Yeah, I hate to say this, but when I was teaching, I did a lot of multiple choice, and it felt like when I was handing out the tests and exams, it felt like it was just basically how much did the students actually memorize rather than actually demonstrate what they had learned. So
yeah, it's hard. I mean, I understand that it's hard to come up with other tests as a teacher, but my last art history teacher would have us, instead of multiple choice, she would have us do essays, which are a lot easier for me personally, just because I'm not good at memorizing dates and people and stuff like that. But when I find something like Michelangelo, that I'm, you know, really, really interested in, I can really remember those kind of things. So she would have us write essays about works of art that we found particularly inspiring, or works of art that were from the same time period that the book didn't cover. So then we could explore the art genre or like the art time period more in our own way, which I feel like that's just better for art history, because I feel like remembering all of art history for like that time period is unrealistic. But if you can give your students, an assignment that makes them remember something that they're passionate about for that time period, I feel like that would work a lot better. It would
Hmm.
stick in their mind more.
So as far as okay, since we're talking about like tests and everything, what's it like now with the schools? I mean, everything's still closed off. Are you basically learning at home?
Yeah, I'm learning at home. Overall, it sucks. Not gonna lie, I do not enjoy it. There's not really much structure, and uh, only one of my four teachers is actually doing any kind of lecture. So, and the lectures are just kind of recovering what the readings already told us. So, it doesn't really help, but I guess being a teacher is also really hard right now, so I got to give them some credit, give them a break, I guess.
As far as I'm just curious about that. How the lectures, are they lives? Can you ask questions?
Yeah, the one teacher that actually is doing them. It's a live Zoom
Okay.
meeting. So, and there's a chat that you can ask questions in. And then for that class, the class isn't like super big. It's like probably only like 30 or 40 people. So you could even unmute your mic and ask a question verbally. So that's pretty good.
Well, at least I got that. What do the other teachers do? Just hand you assignments, and I mean, I guess they're taking you with your honesty that you're the one that's actually doing the work. I guess, right?
Yeah, it's really just assignments and readings for my art history class anyway. I am also in one other science class about food and like its origins and all that stuff and agriculture in America. Honestly, I just thought it was interesting. Um, but that one, she actually assigns us field trips. They can be online field trips, which is when you just go and like you search around online for different things, or in person ones. Like she had us go to farmers markets, which was fun. So she makes that one. That professor makes it more interactive, and she also gives videos more than just readings. So that's better for a lot of students, just because I feel like reading textbooks is especially hard right now, because it's like it's like I'm in college, but I'm only getting the bad parts. I don't get any of the fun parts of college right now, which is just annoying. I don't get to see any of my friends because, like, I'm sure other people remember, but when you're in college without COVID, it's like you're in a giant hotel with a bunch of your friends, and so it's super fun. And you can just go over to someone's place and like play video games or something. But now I'm just like here with my dogs. So, I mean, my dogs are great, not gonna lie, but it
What
would be nice to be in
did
college.
you mention your dogs the last time we were on? Did you? I don't know if you did or not. Did you?
I don't know. I might have. The one that's my like little avatar thingy right now. Her name is Beverly. And her hobbies are digging in the dirt, eating the dirt, and sometimes rolling in cat pee because the cats like to pee outside. But she's a puppy, so I can't get mad at her. Because new things are really, really interesting. And then I also have a dog named Sammy who is much better, much more better behaved. That's what it is. He's actually in on April 25th. I think he's gonna turn 4. So big birthday bash. I'm just gonna make him a cake or something. I'm gonna make him a dog cake or something like that. Um, but he's an Australian Shepherd Husky. So
Oh, is that big? It sounds like a big dog. Is that a big one?
he actually lost 4 pounds, which we're really proud of because he's kind of chunky. He just did, so everyone congratulate him. He is 48 pounds now.
Oh, okay.
He's like a medium-ish dog, but he has a big dog bark, which is nice because if I don't want anyone to like attack me or anything, and he would bark at them, so that's good.
Gotcha. Now, getting back to getting back to your classes, is the programs the courses you're taking, do any of them lead up to an internship at all?
Um, I don't think so. I haven't asked any of the professors, and they haven't really advertised any internships. It's more like going on Indeed, Indeed.com, and then kind of searching for internships. And I had an interview for one, which went well. It was for a nonprofit, though, so I wouldn't get paid, but I would get college credits. So that's nice.
Hmm. The reason I ask is because I spoke to someone within the past month or so. She said that she was going to college, and there was an internship for the courses she was taking, but because of everything being shut down, they said, "Well, you don't have to worry about taking the internship this time for this." And I told her straight up it was for radio. I told her straight up that in order to get a job in radio, you need to find somebody. You need that internship. I used to be in charge of the internship program where I was teaching, and I told my students that all the courses that are being taught are very important, but unfortunately, the internship is probably more important than any of the courses you ever take for the industry. That is, because once you get that internship, then that's your chance to make an impression. To show the people you can do what you can do, and then make contacts. And when she told me that the woman I spoke to within the past month, she told me she couldn't take an internship. I was like, that's devastating.
Right.
Because I don't know what career field you're trying to get into exactly, but for radio, that's devastating. Or the recording industry or television, if you can't get an internship, the chances of you getting a job are really dramatically drop. I mean, you probably won't get one at that point because it's really hard to get one in radio. So
Right. Yeah. It's hard to find like internships that are like actually interesting, if that makes sense. Because like I feel like right now the concept of an online internship is so much less inspiring than actually being able to see how people interact in the workplace. Um, I'm gonna try to get an online internship, um, so just so I have it, under my belt. But I feel like it's just gonna be less fun.
yeah, I can't even imagine doing an online internship for radio. I can't even that would be very bizarre. I don't think that would work in radio. So,
Yeah.
but that's interesting. Wow. I hope that works out for you. Whatever you do with that. So.
Yeah, rough situation. A lot of burnout everywhere. I feel like it's just, I'm glad that the vaccines are being rolled out because I'm excited to be able to interact with people without a slight underlying fear that something could go wrong.
Now the teacher that's doing the lectures, the one that you said you can see online and talk to.
Yeah.
Are they, I don't know if it's he or she, but are they teaching at the school? Or are they actually at the school when they do this, or are they doing it from their home?
They're doing it from their home. Yeah, he's actually my environmental policy teacher, and he's doing it from home. And sometimes, like a dog barks in the background, or one time he was trying to do it outside because it was a nice day wherever he's at. And then the lawn people came over, so full of distractions. But you do what you can.
That's funny. That's funny. The Now is what other? I mean, what do you mind me asking? What is your what do you have a career goal in mind at this point?
Graphic design for now. I think I said this the last one,
Yeah.
but it's okay if you don't remember.
Yeah, as soon as you said
The-
that, it pops back in. Yeah, Susie, I
yeah,
remember. Go ahead.
graphic design. So it's a bit easier. I feel like it's a bit more plausible anyway, to do an online internship with graphic design. But I feel like it's kind of harder in the way that if I want any like tips or anything, I can't just like ask someone to come over and help. I'd have to save everything, make it a PDF, and then send it off, and then wait for an email back or something like that. And then if I need help with anything, like finding anything on, I don't know if you're familiar with the like Adobe Illustrator, but
No,
hmm?
not really. No, not
it's
really.
it's kind of like it's an intimidating platform to look at sometimes, just because there's so many different buttons to do so many different links, and that's what graphic designers use for the majority. And it can be kind of intimidating to look at that and try to figure out what to do, and then like for someone to just be like, well, look at this video tutorial or something like that, it's kind of a lot less helpful than someone actually being able to come over and show you the exact steps that they take. So there's also that. It's just like such an annoying little side effect of quarantine, like not having the college experience and the internship experience that everyone else kind of got.
Yeah, I bet it must be, I can imagine that. Yeah, I obviously I haven't taught in a while, so it's I can't imagine what it would be like for the courses I was teaching, what it must be like right now. So
Yeah, and then learning like this for a year, I feel like a lot of like people my age have been making a lot of memes about like if you go to the doctor with a Gen Z doctor, like they're not going to know what to do kind of thing because it's like they learned everything online, and you have to think about like some of my friends in science fields, they're like they have to do their labs online, which I don't know if if you're super familiar with what a lab is, but it's like where you do your experiments and you kind of learn how chemicals work together. And to do that online, I have no idea how that works, but it sounds like you're just not going to get quite the same experience of seeing how chemicals interact in real life. So I don't know how that's going to work out for everybody.
when I had lab time for me with which would be people just going into a studio, we would call it lab time sometimes to record. So yeah, we actually that could be done from my perspective when I was teaching. That could actually be done from a home. So
Right.
people have their own recording equipment, at least for the courses I taught. Most of the people I was teaching were trying to get into the recording industry, so it was more of a more or less a lot of them were already prepared. They already had their own equipment. They just wanted to know how to properly record, and they were looking for a way to get into the career field itself. So it wasn't
Yeah.
but yeah, for what you're saying, I could really see, yeah, that would be a major problem. I don't think people are going to have that all the items that would be needed to complete those labs.
Right, right. I think one of my friends had to buy like it's gonna sound gross, but she wants to be a surgeon someday. But she had to buy, which is expensive. She had to buy fake surgical skin, like it's rubber skin, but she has to learn how to do stitches, and so she had to buy this fake skin instead of just using the ones that the school provides because she's not at the school. So it's kind of a scary thing just to think about how so many people. I mean, you think about a science lab, and there's so many really expensive things in there, and you just don't get the same experience if you're doing it online or from home. So it's kind of scary to think about how, like, if when we go back to school, like how many people are just not going to know what they're doing because online everything's so much easier, but then when you jump back into intense schooling, it's just going to be like a shock, I feel like.
Hmm. Hmm. So, is there any idea when that's going to happen? Is it how long how many more years are you planning on going to school?
2 more years, but I think I'm hoping I have planned for the next semester to be in school because I'm getting the vaccine over the summer. But as we've all found out, one way or another, plans do not usually work out at this time. So that's a big if. I'm really hoping that I can get back to school in the fall, but who knows?
Now, now about the vaccine, I've heard people say that. Are you hoping to get the vaccine? Just curious.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I've heard people say that the vaccine was rushed in, and there's the thought that, well, if you get it, it hasn't been properly tested, or might not have gone more, probably it's gone through some testing, but not enough to say this is really stable. It's because it's still in its infancy, basically. How do you feel about that?
It went through the same amount of testing as any other vaccine, but they did the testing at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense, but like they I don't know how to explain it, but they did the testing for all the vaccines and all the phases at the same time. I'm not a scientist, so I'm not 100% sure how that works, but you can look it up. I think the CDC website has some stuff about how it was tested and all that stuff, and I wouldn't, trust hearsay more than science.
Right.
But like, uh,
It,
it's all good to go. People are getting it a lot,
what I mean
and they're
is,
not dying. So
well, yeah, what I mean though is, where it's still pretty new,
I
and
think it has
most of the other vaccines that we take right now have been around for a long time. So any of the problems that have been established over the years have already been worked out, but those problems may still arise with this one because it's still pretty fresh. That's what I'm getting.
right. Well, that's fine. I mean, like that's what happens when there's a new medication, a new vaccine, anything like that. I've had like this kind of like to go off track for a moment. I've had really bad allergies all my life, and I would take. I don't know if you know, but there's this medication called Xyzal that's on the counters now for like everyone to be able to get access to. But I was taking it in its infancy, and it was always working really really well for me. So kind of like I feel like having that experience of like a medication being new and not for everyone to use, only for like the extreme cases. I've had that already, and it's fine. It's like you can be a little more scared, especially for apparently for people around my age from like 18 to about 30 in that area. The vaccine is a bit more intense the next couple of days, which everyone was thinking maybe it would be the older people that would experience that, but it's the younger people. Just kind of like you're on bed rest for like a day after, but that kind of thing, I feel like it's expected with a new thing, with a new vaccine or new medication or anything. And it's better for me to have a day, where I have to rest than to like feel completely unprotected from anything that's happening, especially in a college atmosphere. Um, and I do want to be in college again, just because I miss the socialization part. So that's really the priority for me personally.
Gotcha. You don't interact with anybody at this point, like any of the friends. I mean, with school.
No, no, I don't have any like we moved we moved to Florida from Maryland. No, it was after my senior year of high school, so I don't really have any established friends or anything here. So I really just don't interact with anybody other than online.
Oh wow. Oh okay. It's interesting. Oh, well, the funny part is I've been running my business. I've run a business. I've been doing it for so long that I've gotten used to it. So people saying that they live out of their home or they're not, it's something I've adjusted to for over the past 10 years at least. So it's not new to me. So actually nothing really changed for me when everything started shutting down. So
Yeah, yeah. I feel like a lot of people who don't really love interacting are having a great time right now.
so the, as, and now how far are you in school? Is this like your first year, second year?
Junior year. I mean, sophomore. Jeez, I have no idea. It's the concept of time is lost on me.
The, that's cool. So, um, all right. Well, I guess we can go ahead and, unless you want to add anything else, I guess we can go ahead and wrap everything up.
No, I'm good. Yeah, we can wrap it up.
Okay. That was our first episode of Olivia on Air. And is there anything you wanted to add? Did you want to have any links to anything you want posted to the description? I put your full name in the description so people know who you are. But did you want to add anything else to it?
I don't have anything for now.
Like links to any kind of Instagram or anything like that?
Oh yeah. My art Instagram. I think you might have that from the last one. So, um, it's lawton.art. And that's it.
Okay, cool. Cool. Alrighty. Well, thanks Olivia for being on, and thanks for everyone for watching. And we'll be on soon. We'll have another show very soon.
Thank you guys. Bye bye.
All right, hang on a second there. Let me get this here.